1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get pumped, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in they Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move, whatever click you choose.
Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me right there gassing on that intro, man. If you want to get that song, hit me up. That song and the other version of the intro are both available on a 10-song EP. You now can cop it on digital download, or you can get it on a CD, man. If you're interested, hit me up on my email, 16tolifemusic@gmail.com, or you can send me a DM on Instagram at 16tolife. Cash at me $20 or Zelle me $20, and I'm going to get it to you ASAP, man. Now, let's hop right up into this story right here, man. So, yesterday, I did an interview with a brother by the name of Marquis Brooks from Riverside. And the name of that interview is Caught Up in a Deadly Gang Conspiracy with Marquis Brooks. So I definitely suggest you go check that interview out, man. It's a very, very good interview, right? And so Marquis, like I said, happens to be from Riverside, right? And so when we done the interview, you know, we was talking and this and that. And so it made me remember a homie of his who I had done time with, right? Excuse me. It made me remember a homie of his who I had done time with, who unfortunately ended up in a very unwanting circumstance, I would say. But I think it's the situation that he went through, I think it's a real fear for a lot of individuals, a lot of criminals, a lot of gang members, right? You know, you go to jail, you sentenced to one thing, and then later on, when you're getting ready to go home, all of a sudden you charged with some other stuff that you did, and it turned out bad for you, right? And so yeah, let's get into this story right here. Normally I don't do real names or stuff like that, but in this situation, I'm gonna mention his nickname, right? So I'm at CMC East, right, on A Yard, somewhere around, I want to say 2010. I'm not exactly sure, somewhere around there. And you know, I'm outside on the yard, I'm chilling, right? And I happen to meet one individual, another dude from 1200 block East Coast, right? And I probably ain't gonna say his name, right? But I happened to meet him, and so due to the fact that where I'm from Bannon, right? It's in the county of Riverside, not the city of Riverside, but it's in the county of Riverside. And so we go to the same county jail, you know, and actually I have ran across some dudes from 1200 block who actually push with the IE card. Not all of them, but some of them, you know, especially some of the older dudes, man. And so anyway, you know, just by him, this dude who I met, the older dude, the older of the two dudes in this story who was from 1200 block, the older dude, you know, just being from Riverside, you know, we got to chopping it up, talking. By us being from the same county, going to the same county jail, we knew, you know, several of each other's homies, so on and so forth, right? So like I say, we on the yard just talking, chilling, you know, playing basketball or whatever. Eventually, he has another one of his homies pull up. Now, when one of his other homies got there, his name was Bear, or he went by Young Bear. And so I believe at the time, man, Bear was probably about 19 years old, I want to say. Real cool dude, man, young cat. Now at this time I'm probably in my my late 30s or whatever. And so we go to talking and all that stuff, just chilling and stuff. Somehow in the course of the conversation, at some point in time, it came up that he had about I think maybe about 6 years or something. If I can remember, he was sentenced for a robbery, something like that, some type of robbery or something like that. Maybe flocking or robbery, something I can't remember 100%, right? And so I don't know if he had heard me rapping one day or whatever, but he found out that I had a life sentence, and so excuse me. So periodically he would ask me questions like, "Damn man, chill. How long you been down?" And such and such. "Dang man, I'm sorry. Sorry to hear that you're doing life or whatever. Man, I know it's got to be, it's got to be jacked up." And he might ask me questions, how you handle it, how you deal with it, or whatever. And so at some point in time, man, I get caught up in a riot. We got caught up in a riot with the Compton and Watts car over a football game. I told that story early in my YouTube when my channel had started, right? So go check that video out if you ain't seen it. Compton and Watts versus IE. Real good story. Anyway, I go to the hole, right? And when I get to the hole, matter of fact, now the older dude who was from 1200 block, excuse me, if my memory serves me correctly, he was already in the hole. He had went to the hole. He had got into it. He honestly, to keep it 100, he didn't want to be at CMC East. He said it wasn't his cup of tea, and he was trying to get on, right? And so he was already in the hole. So just so happens when I go to the hole, I'm on the same tier as the older dude from 1200 block. So we started playing chess down the tier and stuff. He holler out his move, I holler out my move, stuff like that. The board got numbers on it and stuff like that, just to pass the time. So at some point in time, young Bear comes to the hole. So we like, damn, we hollering down the tier or whatever, like, "Damn, Bear, what's up?" Or I don't know if we happen to go to the yard or whatever, but I know, in the course of talking to Bear, while we was back in the hole, he tells me that he has been charged with a double murder. I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, man, they just came in and man, they called me, told me I was charged with a double murder. The detectives came, tried to talk to me, I didn't have nothing to say. Man, they charged me with a double murder." And so due to the fact that the charges that he was being charged with now carried a lot of time, potentially the death penalty or whatever, he was no longer allowed to be on the yard because had he got convicted of those charges, more than likely his points would have no longer been he would have no longer been a level 3, which is what CMC was, right? So due to the nature of his charges and all that stuff, now they had to put him in the hole upon him being transferred to Riverside County to deal with these charges, right? And so you definitely could hear the anxiety in his voice, the nervousness in his voice, right? And his homie who was down there too was telling him, of course, homie, if they come back, don't talk to him, don't say nothing, so on and so forth, right? So he's asking me, a little about, potentially what he's up against, right? And even though I hated to talk to him about the seriousness of it, I had to keep it real with him and tell him, "Damn, homie, 2 murders. Anytime a person is accused of a double murder, that's potentially death penalty in California, right?" And of course, he never mentioned to me that he did it or nothing like that, but he was telling me what he was just being charged with, and regardless of whether you did it or not, when you charge with anything, there is always a potential of you being found guilty, right? Like I said, whether you're guilty or not. Now, I have no knowledge of his guilt. We didn't speak about that, of course, because we're in the hole. the majority of our conversations are being, we're talking over the tier. So of course, he don't want people all in his business. But I just told him, damn homie, man, I hate to hear that. That's a ugly situation, man. To be 19 years old, you come to prison, with 6 years or whatever he had got sentenced to. So maybe he might have to do out of that 6, he might have to do 4 years and 10 months. It's something doable. You know what I'm saying? It's something doable especially when you that young. You in jail, you chilling with your homies and stuff, but then suddenly to be charged with a double murder, knowing that that's definitely something that's gonna carry life and possibly even more. It's gotta be heartbreaking. It's gotta be heartbreaking, man. And so I think all gang members who was really out there active doing certain things, shootings, robberies, what have you, have got away with any type of crime. That's always something that's in the back of your head when you're in prison, hoping that you don't get charged with something else while you already locked up. Because of course you got your heart set on going home at a certain time, and now you have to go deal with these new charges. And I seen that happen a lot actually when I was locked up. I seen that happen a lot, man. Dudes would be in prison, they would be getting ready to get out. Counselor would call them in and tell them they had a new charge. Sometimes it would be something as simple as traffic tickets or whatever. Sometimes it would be a dope case from another county jail or whatever. And so the messed up part about that is, of course, now instead of going home, so when you go to R&R, which is receiving and release, which is where you normally would be when you're getting released, the detectives from whatever county that you caught this new case in is there waiting to pick you up, arrest you, put you in the car, and transport you back to the county jail. And like I said, sometimes even if it's for traffic tickets, so now you had your heart going home at a certain time, you might have to go back to the county jail even to deal with a traffic ticket. Even if you have to, go back and wait another week, sit back up in there, wait to get called, and have all this stuff handled, right? So it's definitely jacked up. So imagine being called back for a double murder, right? And so during the course of that interview that I did with the brother Marquis from Riverside, he mentioned how his hood and a Mexican gang out there in Riverside had got embroiled in a 30-year-long serious beef back and forth where, unfortunately a lot of people was shot and killed. And so unfortunately for Young Bear, I believe he had got caught up in that situation, or it was alleged that he was caught up in that situation where there was a double shooting, and he was being charged with the double shooting, man. And so just doing the interview yesterday, doing the interview a couple days ago with Marquis, the one that I put up yesterday, it just made me, because I was talking to him and reminiscing about some people that I knew from his section, and that's one of the things that came to mind, man. So unfortunately, Young Bear had told me this too also. Young Bear had told me that originally, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he was either from Moreno Valley or Paris. And he was originally claiming a gang out there. He had an older brother named Bear who was from Riverside 1200 block. I believe his older brother had been killed by members of the gang he was originally claiming. At some point in time, the gang that he was claiming had started beefing with the gang that his older brother was from. And so after his older brother was killed, he stopped claiming that gang and went out there and got put on and started claiming the gang that his older brother was from, and he ended up taking his name, and that's how he came up with the name Young Bear, if my memory serves me correct. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm relatively sure that's how the story went, right? And then so unfortunately, man, for Young Bear, he of course eventually goes back to Riverside County. And like I said, he was facing some extremely serious charges. And yes, it turned out that the district attorney definitely was trying to give him the death penalty. So imagine being 19 years old, 20 years old, or however old he was, because the murder that he was being charged with, according to the detectives or whoever district attorney, it had happened maybe a year and a half before they actually, got information that he was involved in it, or assumed that he was involved in it. It was alleged that he was involved in it or whatever, right? So he gets called back down to the county jail, and ultimately he does get convicted of those charges. And yes, like I said, they were trying to give him the death penalty. So how things work out here in California, right? Anytime the district attorney is charging you with a crime that carries the death penalty, what you do is you'll initially have the trial. And if you're found guilty of the trial, then you go on to have a death penalty trial phase. And that's basically you have another smaller trial, and the DA is trying to show why you are worthy of getting the death penalty. Then, of course, your defense team is trying to show why you shouldn't be given the death penalty, why you should be given the lesser charge, or excuse me, the lesser penalty, which is just life without parole. So it's not as bad as the death penalty, but it's definitely not good either. And so during this death penalty phase, I believe a few members of his jury decided against giving him the death penalty, voting, because the jurors have to vote. They all have to vote, and it has to be a unanimous decision that, yeah, this individual is worthy of the death penalty. So you had some who didn't feel that Bear was worthy of the death penalty. I don't know whether it was his age or whatever the factors were, but fortunately for him, they decided against that, right? And so then he just unfortunately went ahead and got life without parole, which is still no prize. So I did a little research on the information, right? And what he ended up getting is he ended up getting 4 life sentences. 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. So not only one, he had 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Then he had 2 other life sentences, and he had to at least serve 25 years on those before he was eligible for parole, man. So, unfortunately, man, this gang stuff gets ugly at times, and when you out there caught up in the mix, man, you never know what's going to occur. You can lose your life. You can lose your life to the system or whatever, man. And it's unfortunate because, life without parole, man, that's a hard pill to swallow, especially for anybody, but especially for an individual 18, 19 years old who hasn't even lived or experienced life yet, man. And so I got to keep it 100 with y'all, man. Every time I hear stories like that, every time I hear stories about people getting the death penalty, people getting life without parole, I feel blessed, man, because I was locked up with a lot of individuals in Riverside County who ended up getting the death penalty or life without parole. There was several of them, and so, I honestly could have been in that situation myself by making some bad choices. So, hey, man, I'm just telling y'all out there, man, definitely got to keep your mind alert to what's going on, man, and think about all this stuff, because it's definitely not worth throwing your life away for this type of stuff. And then, like I said too, and like I've said several times before in some of my stories, I have actually ran across dudes who were actually innocent. I ran across dudes who was actually innocent in jail, but just being associated or affiliated with certain individuals, sometimes you get caught up. Anything could happen when you out there in the streets, and you playing in the streets. You might not necessarily be out there murdering and shooting people, but you might be hanging with individuals. You might be representing the gang, and you get caught up, mistaken identity, whatever. The police don't always get it right. Anyway, you already know what it is, man. It's your boy 16 to life. Resume normal program.